Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Munadiwa and this is Castle Chaps, where we talk all things home to interior design and everything in between. Today I'm going to be sharing a few tips with you that you can implement to make your small bedroom look more thoughtful and luxurious. I would really love a big spacious bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a beautiful forest, or even better, a lake with a beautiful fireplace in it for those cold winter nights, but at the same time with a big skylight to observe the stars in the evening. And the bedroom should have a beautiful freestanding bathtub with a nice charming chandelier which is hanging over it. Well, unfortunately, these are all wishes, and my reality is honestly very different to what I wish to have. And if you can relate to that, then let us not despair. We can still enjoy the little that we have, as long as we put in a little bit of work to make it shine. 1. Declutter and organize. Unfortunately, we can't just dive into the fun part. Like I said, we will love our small bedrooms, but only after we have put in the work. Now, I want you to look around your bedroom. Look around and tell me, what do you see? Is there laundry piled on a chair, letters and stationery lying on a desk in the corner, clothes tumbling out of the wardrobe, perhaps an unpacked suitcase from your last girl's trip on the floor? Look, my goal here is not to shame you, nor is it to stress you out, but what I want to achieve is that together we want to solve a problem. And the problem is clutter. Clutter is usually caused because all of the stuff that you have either doesn't have a proper place, or the process takes too long for you to put everything away. And so it winds up just alternating between the bed, the floor, the desk, or anywhere else that you have some space. So now would be a good opportunity for you to get rid of some of the stuff that you don't really use that much. To help you with this process, as always, I have a couple of questions that I want you to ask yourself, and the answers to these questions will really determine what you should get rid of and what should stay. The first question: which of these items do I love? Which of these items do I need? Which provide practical value to you and your family? If you can really follow through with this exercise to get rid of some things, then well done, way to go. But if that's not possible, don't worry, that's also okay. The key here is then to think of some clever storage solutions which can help you solve your clutter problem. This can be hidden storage drawers that you use, which you store under your bed, or baskets under a bench or a chair, or even some multifunctional furniture. For example, a day bed, which will not only have storage underneath it, but will also serve you as seating during the day, and then during the evening you can then sleep beautifully under your day bed. Along with organizing your bedroom, I would recommend you to switch from using open shelves to closed drawers and cabinets. Whilst open shelving is beautiful and can be helpful in easy accessibility of frequently used items within a space, the danger of using open shelving is that they're just prone to accumulate a lot of dust, clutter, and they really become sort of like a catch-all kind of place. So unless you're one guru who is good at organization and keeping things in order, I would just say stay away from open shelving. I myself have some open shelves in my kitchen, and boy oh boy, they're giving me a hard time. So I'm also speaking from personal experience. But let's say you already have some beautiful open shelves in your room, like what I have in my kitchen, and you don't necessarily want to take them down. Well, that's a fair enough point. But in this case, a good way then to make sure that you remain organized is by using storage baskets. This way, things are stored out of sight and everything still looks streamlined and organized. 2. Color scheme. Color in interior design is everything, and even more so in a small space. I see many people making the following mistakes in a small space. 1. Using too many colors. This is a very fatal mistake because in a small space, it is very easy for the eye to recognize boundaries. And boundaries are created when you use too many colors within a small space. Instead, what you want to do is for everything to look as cohesive as possible. And this will in turn make it one composition. So tell me, how are you going to achieve that when you have blue walls, a black bed with red bedding, and a green rug? Do you get my point now? Using 2 colors. I know, I just literally say don't use a multitude of colors. But at the same time, you don't want to literally use 2 colors. What I often see people who like a monochromatic color scheme doing is they will have perhaps a white bed cover, which is okay, and then 2 or 3 pillows, which are usually black, and then on the floor they will place a small black rug, and that's pretty much it. They call it a day. The problem here is because there are 2 contrasting colors used, it really creates a lot of contrast, which again brings us back to the point previously of creating boundaries. Whilst contrast is beautiful and can be used to your advantage, too much contrast on the other hand is not great. This is because the brain will recognize the boundaries first, and then it will cut your space into smaller pieces according to how the contrasting colors are placed. So if you introduce a lot of contrast in your space, or if you used 2 contrasting colors, that will just make your room more smaller. Using dark colors. Whilst dark colors can have a beautiful effect, like making a room feel more intimate and cozy, in a small room, they can easily overwhelm the space and make it actually feel claustrophobic. So in order for dark colors to work in a small room, you need to at least have a lot of natural lighting in order to counteract the receding feeling of dark colors. If you don't have natural light, then the room should at least be big enough for the color to breathe and so that it doesn't feel too claustrophobic. Now that we have covered what not to do in terms of colors, let's talk about what you should do. It is best to choose a neutral-based color scheme. This is because the lighter the color, the more light reflective it will be. And because there's more light reflection, we then automatically perceive the room as bigger. Light colors give the room an airy feel, which in essence will feel like it's expanding the room. And boom, before you know it, your room feels bigger. 3. Hang side table lighting from the ceiling. You know I'm all about adding details into a room that are not only functional, but also decorative. And one good way of doing this is by using a bedside lamp. It is a necessity in any bedroom, big or small, because it can provide you with some task lighting when, say, you're reading a book or maybe you're working from bed. But a lamp will also provide you with mood lighting when you're having a conversation in the evening and maybe you don't need that much lighting like in the day. In a tiny space, having a statement lamp may not always be possible because you might not even have space for the nightstand. So where will you place the lamp? In order to be a good interior designer, you have to think about ways to utilize space which may not be so obvious. So for example, instead of thinking of using your floor space in order to accommodate a nightstand, why not think about other options like using the wall or the ceiling? In a tiny bedroom, I highly recommend hanging your lamp from the ceiling or using a wall sconce with a movable arm, which you can bring over to the bed when you're reading and then out of the way. One reason why I love lamps that hang from the ceiling is they draw the eye upwards, thus emphasizing the vertical and drawing attention away from the small floor space that you have. Four, use of asymmetrical balance. Oftentimes, symmetrical balance is incorporated into interior design. It is basically the principle that elements around a given axis should mirror each other. This means if you could theoretically fold a room into half along a given axis, usually the midpoint, then both halves would be exactly identical to each other. Symmetrical balance is usually down around a focal point like the bed in the bedroom, or if it is a living room, it is done around a fireplace. Whilst it results in a beautiful uniform composition with a very striking aesthetic, it is not always practical in a small room. In a tiny space, you barely have space for a bed, let alone two bedstands that you would need in order to achieve the symmetrical balance. So in this case, this is where asymmetrical balance enters. Where symmetrical balance aims to mirror two sides of an axis, asymmetrical balance, on the other hand, is when the visual weights of the objects or the colors or the textures are balanced without necessarily having them being duplicate of each other. To create an asymmetrical balance, we should use different elements with similar weights on the opposite axis. A concrete example of how to use this is instead of using two bedside tables on each side, on one side you can use a small wall-mounted bedside table, and then on the other side you can put a chair close by, which will serve as a bedside table, but will also provide with some much needed seating space for reading or maybe wearing your shoes in the morning, or even holding your outfit for the following day. Five, create a focal point on the wall which the bed faces. A focal point is basically a unique feature or an area in a space that draws your eye. Generally speaking, the bed together with what is above it can be the focal point in a bedroom. In a small room, you can use this to your own advantage to take the eye's focus away from the size of the room, but rather to something else which is strategically placed above the bed. An example of this can be a huge art painting or a photo. Instead of placing something tiny, you want to go big to trick your eye into believing that, the space is actually big enough to hold the painting, therefore the space should be big.